Hey there, welcome to LSAT Demon Daily. My name is Katie Becker, former LSAT Demon student and teacher. I'm with Nathan Fox, one of the founders of LSATdemon.com and host of LSAT Demon Daily and the Thinking LSAT podcast.
Howdy.
Howdy. Nathan, we have several questions here from F.
I'll read it. It says, hey guys, 4/5 relatively quick questions. First, how long does it typically take to hear back from law schools after submitting your applications? What is on the early side? Katie, you just recently applied to law schools. Do you remember how long it was before you got your first? I guess I should start with how many schools did you apply to? When did you apply? And then how quick did you hear back from some of the schools?
I think I applied to about 13.
Okay.
And I think I heard back within 6 days for one of them.
Wow. Was that a school inside the top 14? I mean, I know that you are admitted to Yale and, so you're obviously a super strong applicant. So schools would be smart to reach out to you quickly if you indicate some interest. But you heard back from a top 10 school within 6 days, you said? Mm-hmm. Damn. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool.
Yep. Others took longer. So it was sort of a trickle for about probably 2 months was the longest it took.
Great.
Mm-hmm. That is one experience. Other people, I think, wait 6 months, crickets.
Yeah,
but it really varies.
The people that the people that actually follow our advice, the advice that we have constantly given on the Thinking LSAT podcast and also on this podcast, is to apply early and to apply broadly. And the people that actually follow that advice, also with your best LSAT, like apply with a shitty LSAT, it's not going to get it done. But if you apply early, broadly, and with your best LSAT, I feel like people always hear back within a week or two from some school because it's competitive. I mean, these schools want to climb the rankings and they're gonna reach out to qualified applicants early because they want to beat other schools to the punch. Yes, it is true that all law schools do rolling admissions, and yeah, maybe Harvard, Stanford, Yale, they could, if they wanted to, just not reply to anybody until January. But that's because they're Harvard, Stanford, Yale, and they're not very worried about climbing the rankings. When you're
Harvard, they start sending out those interview requests.
Yeah, well, Harvard
early.
Also is a gigantic law school, right? I mean, Harvard has 500 1Ls every year, so they've got to fill spots early. Okay, great. So it could be days, and if you're the right kind of applicant, which you should be the right kind of applicant, or else don't apply. I mean, we want you not to pay for law school. We want you to go for free, or, maybe, Katie, if you end up paying to go to Yale, that's a different league. We want people to go to law school for free, which means apply early, broadly, with your best LSAT score. And if you do that, I really do think you should hear back in a week or two from at least some of the schools. Next question, how do you go about negotiating? I want to be respectful, but I will not go unless it is for free. I love hearing that.
You got a convert there, Nathan. That's great. You want to take that one?
Well, I guess I would just say ask. I mean, it's not necessarily the case that schools are going to change their initial offer. But sometimes schools are going to admit you and make no offer at all. And it's totally worthwhile, I think, for you to say, respectfully, professionally, I think an email is fine. I think a phone call is fine. But just say, hi, I'm really concerned about the cost of law school. Thank you so much for admitting me. I love your school, whatever. Make nice. Pleasantries are good. But make it clear that you're interested in hearing what their offer is. Down the road, I don't really think you want to be negotiating with every single school, and I think it's a waste of time and it's a little bit unprofessional to be negotiating with a school that you have no intention of actually going to. I think I might apply to that school just to see what they offer you, but I don't think I would actually then, oh yeah, can you give me a little bit more? that's like a dick move, right? That's like, oh, you really want to go on a date with me? How bad do you want to go on a date with
Yeah.
me? And then eventually say, oh, actually, no. I mean, that's just rude. So I would, but if there's a decent chance that you would actually go to that school if the price was right, I think you want to make that clear to them. I'm not sure you want to use exactly those words, but professionally to say, hey, I am. You could easily say, if it's a school that you actually will walk away and go to, if you're like, well, I have this full ride plus stipend from school X, and I really I can't, for myself and my family, I just can't go into debt for this endeavor. So I'm going to take that deal. If you can genuinely say that, then I don't see why you wouldn't say that to, if that's the fact, then why not just say it?
Yeah.
Now,
And the fact is, the whole I'm worried about the cost of law school. Everyone should be worried about the cost of law school, right?
if
You
you're
can put
not,
that in your email. I'm worried about the cost of law school.
well,
Like,
if you're not, then you're naive, right? Like, you're a
right.
fool if you're not worried. I mean, or you have family money, in which case, like, whatever. If you're, if Zuckerberg is your uncle, then fine. I don't care. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the 99.9% of people who should be concerned about the cost of law school. Even if your folks have saved up some money and they're
Yeah.
willing to support you, there's no reason that they have to use that money. At most schools, you should be able to get a full ride instead. So, yes, telling the school, I am extremely concerned about the cost of law school. I know that I can go for no tuition to these other schools. I, you know, can you reconsider your offer? Now, 90% of the time they might say no. They might have made their best offer up front. But I have seen schools change their mind.
Oh, yeah.
And I've seen schools change their mind to the tune of tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, I'll never forget, I saw UC Berkeley. There was a competitive offer from Columbia. UC Berkeley had offered zero. This applicant showed them the competitive offer from Columbia, which is a competitive school for UC Berkeley. Berkeley gave a full ride. So they went from zero to full ride.
Yep.
It was it's like $150,000. Well, it was less then. It was 135 back then. But it's $135,000 email. So I guess that's a very long-winded response, but I would say stick to the facts and just ask.
Yeah. And recognize that it's part of the process. Like, they're not going to. I remember when I was buying a car for the first time, and I was so nervous to like try to negotiate, because I was like, it feels so weird because I had never done it before. And I called my dad like outside the car dealership.
Still like that.
And he was like, Katie, you're not trying to make a friend. They're expecting you to ask that. It's part of the process. And I was like, you're right, duh. But this is the same. I mean, you're not trying to make an enemy, so don't be rude. But you're also not trying to make a friend. It's a business transaction.
My solution is to go to CarMax, where they just literally do not negotiate. I mean, I hate that shit so much. I want to see what the price actually is. But I hate law school admissions. Like, I think that the whole thing is just really a kind of a dirty scam. I just hate the fact that there are so many law schools that give 85% of their class some sort of a tuition discount, or schools that give more than half tuition to more than half of their class. I mean, that's like just obviously overcharging some people so that you can get better qualified applicants to come to your school for free. And that it's very distasteful, but that is the system. And so, yeah, I would take Katie's advice here and just, hey, these people, but boy, it sucks because they really want to be your friend. I mean, they're sounding like they really want to be your friend. They come off as like the just warmest, they want what's best for you, and they want what's best for your career. And then in that same tone of voice, they'll say things like, well, surely you're not going to let money dictate where you go to law school. I mean, law school is a transformative experience, and you can't let, I mean, boy, it's your whole career that you're talking about here. Are you really going to let money dissuade you? And the answer to that is fuck yeah, I'm going to let money
Yeah.
dissuade me. We're talking about $150,000. You crazy? Go ahead.
Well, I was so struck by the GoFundMe. Get a GoFundMe. Ask your friends
Oh,
and family. GoFundMe. We don't give
that's
scholarships. Directly contradicting
well,
their
that was just a straight lie,
disclosures.
right? I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
making it look like they don't, like, oh, scholarships are a small part of it. Bullshit. More than half your class gets more than half tuition. Scholarships are the main part of how people fund your stupid law school. And then you suggesting that people go beg their friends and family. I mean, yeah, I have no patience for that at all. That's just, yeah, it's just so dirty. Whatever. I don't know. I don't like negotiating, but you are negotiating whether you like it or not. If you choose not to negotiate, all you're doing is losing the negotiation. So F, I would definitely ask. You need to start standing up for yourself, because you're going to have to stand up for your client, and negotiating is a big part of what lawyers do. So whatever you do, make sure you ask. Okay, F has another question here. It says, how do law schools know if you were considered as an underrepresented minority? On an application, you just did applications. How do schools find out that you are URM?
I think there might be a box.
There's a
Um,
box. Yeah.
there's a box that you check. I think.
Yes.
You can also people also disclose that or disclose or share that in like a diversity statement
Yeah.
if they choose to submit one.
Yes, applications normally have a box that you're going to check to say, yes, I am an underrepresented minority. But they also will frequently ask you questions that are probing for, hey, if you're going to bring diversity to our classroom, can you tell us how you might be able to bring that diversity? I like diversity statements to be short and sweet. I don't think that I'm much more interested in your personal statement. But law schools are genuinely interested in getting more diversity into their classrooms. I think that it mostly means black and brown people because there aren't enough. Like, it's not a represented population in law school. So I think that that's what they're really
Yeah,
looking for. But I
as they
have
well should
seen
be. Yeah.
yeah, but I have seen successful diversity cases, specifically the LEOP program at UC Hastings, where I used to go. I can't even remember what LEOP stood for, but there were LEOP students at Hastings who were white, but they were, like socioeconomically diverse. So don't get me wrong. I got an angry email just the other day from somebody who thought that I had somehow said that you can't be white and diverse at the same time. That's not what I said. What I said, though, I mean, you do need to you need to be thoughtful about writing that essay. If you're not what if you're not black or brown, and you're trying to make a case for yourself as diverse, then yeah, write an essay that shows how you're actually different. But like talking about, I don't know, there's lots of things that I think people think are unique and different that are just not that unique and different. So make the case for yourself, but also don't waste their time. Like, think about it. If you know that they're probably getting 1,000 of these similar essays, then don't write that essay. But if it actually is different, then yeah, you can make the case in a diversity statement. Okay, F has one final question. It says, should I be following up in any way during the pending period?
I would say probably not unless there's a really major change, like you get a new job or something and you want to submit an updated resume. And a lot of schools have a place in their portal where you can do that.
If you get waitlisted.
If you get waitlisted, that's a different thing. Yeah, sure. If you get waitlisted, you could send a letter of continued interest.
Yeah, although it's also not very likely that you're going to get a scholarship off of the wait list. And so, the ship might have already sailed if you get waitlisted. Many schools are going to waitlist you and then just never talk to you again. So, don't be planning on getting in off of the wait list, and especially don't be planning on getting a scholarship off the wait list. But you could certainly send them a letter that says, hey, thank you for, continuing to consider my application. And if you have anything new to update them on, or maybe a third letter of recommendation or something like that, you could ask them about. Just like try to have a conversation with them. I think it's also totally fair to follow up if you haven't heard anything in 2 months. Speaking from experience, at UC Hastings, I applied and never heard anything. And then I got a weird email 2.5 months later that said, as you know, your application to Hastings remains incomplete. And I was like, what? As I know? I don't know shit. Are you kidding me? So what had happened was,
What a mess.
it was a disaster. And I'll tell you exactly. I've told this story a million times, but probably nobody listening to this episode has heard it before. Anyway, so LSAC fucked up. They sent 2 copies of the same letter of recommendation to Hastings. Instead of sending 2 individual letters, they sent 2 copies of the same letter. Hastings then marked my application as incomplete and didn't tell me. So 10 weeks later, I'm like, hey, what's up? I haven't heard back yet on my application, and I have a 179 LSAT. Like, I know you're going to admit me. So I didn't say it that way, but
That's good.
it's like,
Yeah.
I'm just curious. And as you know, your application is incomplete. What? So then I had to send in another letter and everything, but it was a disaster because at that point it was too late to get scholarships.
Yeah. I think some of that's been automated, so you should
Yeah.
get like a portal where you can see, it'll say complete, hopefully to check against that, but those are fallible. So yeah, you got to advocate for yourself. I would say, like, if you know that your application's complete at Harvard, right, in September, and you haven't heard anything by mid-November, that's not atypical, right? So I think be judicious with those follow-ups.
Yeah. You don't want to be annoying. You don't want to be following up all the time. But I would say in most cases, 6 weeks later, 8 weeks later, especially if you do it, cordially, professionally, this is a real good reason to go to law school visits or to go to law school fairs. If you went to one of those LSAC fairs or if you actually visited the campus, if you can make a friend in the admissions office. Now, remember that they're kind of not actually your friend and it's a negotiation and they're trying to charge you more than you need to pay to go to that school. But if you know somebody's name and face and they maybe remember you and you can say something like, hey, it was really nice to meet you at the LSAC fair, or hey, it was really nice to meet you on my campus visit. I still haven't heard anything back from my application and I'm just wondering, if you need anything else from me, right? Something along those lines. It's hard to see how that hurts you. Might not help you. Hard to see how it hurts you unless you're unprofessional or annoying about it.
Yeah. Proofread that
Okay.
email, right? Proofread it.
Oh, well, and keep it short, y'all.
Yeah.
Like, people are terrible writers, okay? I hate to say it that way, but it's true. Like, the majority of personal statements that we get at the Thinking LSAT podcast, I mean, the majority of them, and I'm using that word literally, I mean, more than half of the personal statements are like just atrociously written and edited. So y'all need to be careful. And one of the best ways to be careful is fewer sentences and shorter sentences. Like, you wrote 2 paragraphs. Okay, let's make it 1. You've got 5 sentences in that paragraph. Let's make it 2.
Yeah.
You've got 30 words in that sentence. Let's make it 10 or 15 or 20. You guys need to tighten that shit up. Shorter sentences, shorter paragraphs, fewer sentences, fewer paragraphs. That's the best tip for editing. Then you can also run it through Grammarly or whatever else. But yes, make sure, that's a great tip, Katie, to make sure that you're not, boy, you could totally be shooting yourself in the foot if you write them some poorly edited email.
Right. Especially if your personal statement's flawless and then you send them a long email that's janky, they might start to wonder, did you really write this? Is this more indicative? Pull out your LSAT writing sample and sort of like,
yeah, you probably didn't have your English mentor, write this email for you. You probably wrote this email yourself. Oh, this is an example of what kind of email you're going to write. Lawyers send lots of emails. Lawyers use email, and like, oh, that's an example of your actual professional communications. Yeah, I think we might pass. Cool. All right.
Just be careful.
Anything else for F?
No.
All right. Why don't you
Thanks,
wrap it
F.
up?
Thanks, everyone. This has been the LSAT Demon Daily podcast. You can find us on lsatdemon.com.
Thanks for listening.